For those of you that are completely new, okay, what I'm going to show you with social media marketing, the business model that I've been teaching now for a very long time, many, many years. This can be done without a large social media presence, okay? So you don't need to be posting content like I do online. And to do this, you really only need a couple hours a day. Now, this goes without saying. If you have more time, fantastic, right? If you're sitting there with, let's say, 2 to 4 hours a day, great. That is going to be easier for you to get up and running. But for those of you that are working full time, you've got family, you're studying, whatever it may be, like you genuinely can get good results with 1 or 2 hours a day. And I don't say that just based off of, I think, like it's based off of data. It's based off of results I've seen with people that I've mentored. Okay. People that are making good money now. And I've seen the time that they've put in. Okay. Now, this works in recessions, pandemics, economic chaos. Okay. I started before COVID hit. So I've kind of seen this business model from a lot of different perspectives over the last 7 or so years. And I know it has worked literally the entire time. Okay. Of course, we do things a little bit differently when there's a recession. We do things differently when there's a pandemic, right? Or there's just a period of economic chaos, but fundamentals are the same. And that for me was really important when I started this to make sure it was something that was sustainable long term. And if you're going to start this, like you really don't need a lot of money. There's no huge startup capital required like you would need for most businesses. It's very much a business based on the time that you put in. So this is not like e-commerce where you need to buy loads of products, right? This is very much you selling services, which I'll explain in this entire training. So that doesn't take a lot of money, right? Services, fortunately for us, are pretty much free to deliver. All right. So some of you who might be in the space a while, okay, you might have heard the term social media marketing is saturated, or that phrase being thrown around a few times. I heard this when I started. So let that sink in for a second. I started in 2019. Okay, that's 7 years ago now. I was told back then it was saturated, and it clearly worked for me. And it's worked now for lots of people, right? Like literally just yesterday, I posted an interview on YouTube with Jessica, student in the program that I run. Okay, she hit 5K a month. She works full time. That was yesterday. Okay, the video is literally live. You can watch it. Just 4 weeks ago, about a month back, I interviewed Aoife. She hit 10K a month. And then if you look a little bit further, okay, it's about a month and a half ago, Malachi, 7.5K a month. Okay, so hopefully that I'm just showing you that there, you guys, right? Really just to show you it's not saturated. If you hear somebody saying this, run a mile, okay? Because what it means is they're probably just trying to tell you this doesn't work so that you should try something else. They might be selling a program on something else, okay? The business model has worked, continues to work, and will continue to work. It has done so for the last 7, 10 plus years, okay? Out of all the people I've worked with, I've had over 140 people make between 5K to 45K per month. So that's kind of the upper range. So for those of you looking to really take this and scale this to the moon, this is kind of the upper limit I've seen. I have friends of mine that run marketing businesses that do a lot more than this, that do hundreds of thousands per month. But out of the people I've personally helped, this is the range we're looking at. Okay, here's just a couple of people with awards that I've sent out to them. Now, if I was to start again, right? Again, as I said, I started this almost 7 years ago now. If I was to start again, I would actually start with this, like genuinely, because you don't need a social media presence. You don't need to have startup capital, right? So if I was to lose everything tomorrow, like this is where I would go. Selling marketing services to businesses. That is where I would focus. Okay. Now, also, you're not going to need to build a massive team with employees. We do look at outsourcing some of the work that we do, but they're never going to be employees. Okay. It's on a contract basis. You're only paying them for work that they do. Okay. For example, Rachel, someone who was in my program, she got to over 10K a month, and she actually did that doing everything herself. So if you're the type that, has a little bit of knowledge of graphic design or video editing, or you've done some social media work before, well, like you can do it that way. Okay. You can do it just with the skills that you have. Now, most people don't do it this way because they don't have the time. And they also don't want to spend that time learning all of these skills. They'd rather outsource the work and get really good at getting clients. And I'll kind of walk you through more of that during this training. Now, you don't need any experience. Okay. Of course, again, this goes without saying, if you have experience, great. Like that is going to give you a helping hand. And now a lot of you watching, like you actually will have a type of experience, that might not seem relevant, but I can bet you now is relevant, right? The interview I did the other day, or just yesterday with Jessica, this one here, I asked her because she's a school teacher, right? So a school teacher, you would assume, has no skill that they're going to take from teaching into social media marketing. And she mentioned how, she has to manage a class of kids. And like that actually helped her in this business because when she gets a new client that's paying for her marketing service, she also has to set a very clear expectation with them and learn how to not control them, but direct them, right, to get the best result. For example, there's other people in the program that are engineers, right? Where, okay, if you're an engineer, you might think, okay, I have no link to this, but you're probably very systems oriented, right? You think through processes and systems. Well, people who scale with this, they have to develop that skill. So you already have that skill. If you're an accountant, right, and you're really good with numbers and tracking things and just knowing what's working, what's not, because that's what you do for your clients, right? As an accountant, well, great, because a lot of business is looking at the inputs you're doing each week, looking at the outputs you're getting, and then optimizing those inputs, aka changing them to get a better output, a better result. All right. So you actually probably would have experience coming into this. As I mentioned previously, you don't need to post on social media. You don't need a big following or anything like that. I obviously post on social media now, but I didn't start that way. I had my business probably at least a year. We were making six or maybe even multi six figures at that point before I started posting like anything on social media. Okay. So you really don't need to do that. Again, going back to that interview I did yesterday, because it's top of mind. Jessica, I asked her this question. She does not post on social media. She is planning to, because she wants to build up kind of a personal brand where she can talk about the work she's doing, but she's gotten to 5K a month without doing that. So there's really no need for you to do it. And you don't need to be an expert. I know it sounds a little silly, right? Because obviously, if you are an expert, again, great. Okay, you can probably just charge a premium price for the knowledge you have about social media. But most of us who start a business like this, we don't know that much. But we're going to be working with clients that are not expecting that much. We're not working with a client that wants us to get them 10,000 followers on social media in a month. Like that's not the type of client we work with. We work with the client that understands they need to be on social media because they've seen people talk about it for years. So they know they need to be on it. They just don't want to do it themselves, or they don't know how, or they don't have the time. That's the type of client we're working with. And so they don't need you to be an expert, and they're not going to pay expert prices. Your client might be paying you 500 a month. It could be 1,000 a month. Expert prices are way more than that. We're talking about 5K, 10K a month per client, right? So don't worry about not being an expert. And for those of you, again, that are working full time, or if you're studying, like you can do this beside that. That's no problem, genuinely no problem. Of course, we're human, right? We all have busy lives and there's a lot of things going on. You might have your job, you have a family, you have a relationship, you have things you got to look at, right? So I know that you can't just put all your time into this. But if you, again, have 1, 2, 3 hours a day, fantastic. I can definitely work with that. Give you some real examples. Okay, Tiffany and Gabe, a couple that worked with me inside my program. This is them when they hit 10K a month. They both worked 9 to 5. Okay. So like in corporate America, very intense jobs, 9 to 5s. This guy, Dennis, 17 in school. And if you look at his last message, he said, I hit 11K in total revenue, right? That's just an example of someone who's doing it in school. Okay. So he's not letting age hold him back, but he's not letting the lack of time that he has hold him back either. Now, this for me was really important when I started. I wanted to start a business that I could kind of keep anonymous and people didn't really have to know I was doing it. So if you don't want to, you don't have to tell anyone about this. I didn't tell anybody about my little social media marketing business until it hit about 10K a month. Then I had a kind of new sense of confidence and was like, yeah, I'll tell people, because I was kind of proud of the result I got. And, I guess I learned a lot. So I wanted to share some of that with people as well. But you don't have to, right? Tiffany and Gabe, who I showed you, like their bosses didn't even know they were doing this on the side, and they got this at a certain point, as you can see here in the message, up to 21K in 1 month. Now, the profit might have been around 14, 15K, but that's still phenomenal, right? And again, my key point there is that their bosses didn't know. Like, obviously, if you're in a certain contract with your employer that explicitly states that you can't do this, fair enough. But most people, that's not the case. As long as you don't let it obviously influence or impact your work, you should be fine. Now, in the world we're in right now, AI makes this a whole lot easier, as you can all imagine. And I know most of you are probably already using AI, right? Like you're probably using ChatGPT to write emails or in your job, whatever it may be. Well, great, because you're familiar with that, fantastic. You can bring that experience into this. Okay. If you're not familiar with it, don't worry. Anybody I work with, I teach them very much in detail how to use this. It's not as complicated as it might sound. Now, there's kind of too many AI tools to mention. I'm not going to go through every one, but I am going to give you a list of my favorite tools at the end that if you're serious about this, you might want to check out. Now, just a recap for you guys, right? The average business owner from the research I've done is 51 years old. They don't really know how to market their business on social media. Those that do know how to market their business don't have the time and they don't want to do it, right? Because they're, again, just like for many reasons, okay? But one of the most common things we see is a business owner who has their business and they're not looking at social media like this needs to save my business, but they see it as I need to do this and I need to adapt now or else I'll get left behind. That doesn't mean that they really want to do it. It's just they know they have to do it, right? And so when they have to do it and they know they can make money in other parts of their business, they want to spend their time there. All right. So really, these business owners, it's just a lack of time. It's a lack of desire if they don't want to learn it. Right. So that's why they're very happy to pay for somebody to actually do this. Okay. And so this is where, the business owner takes the cash, gives it to you, and you provide a very valuable service. You might see this and go, oh, well, why are they paying me? It's because you're providing a really valuable service. Okay. For example, Leia got to 9,000 a month with my help. Okay. It's just going to show you some results just so you have kind of an idea of people that have done this because I've worked with people from all backgrounds. Okay. All different ages, all different countries. Leia's based in the Netherlands, for example. Carson based in Belgium, for example. He was in with his 5K a month awards. He was able to buy a Tesla from the work he does with this. Is pretty cool. Oliver from the UK, 30K a month. Reese, Australia, 6.7K a month. Rosario, Germany, 15K a month. Shane from Ireland, 5K a month. And, if you followed my social media or if you see my YouTube content, there's a lot more results. These are just a handful to give you guys an idea that this really is possible for you. Okay. So the question I'm going to ask you guys now is, are you ready? Like, you're ready to get this thing going? Because if you are, just drop a 1 in the chat. All right. If you're kind of checked out and saying, hey, this isn't for me, fair enough. That's okay. But if you're feeling this, you want to learn a little bit more, you want to go a bit deeper, how this actually works, how do I get clients, what services can I sell, just drop a 1 in the chat. Okay. I'm just going to check in real quick here, see if we got some 1s. Okay, we do. We got plenty of 1s. All right. That's a good sign. Appreciate you guys in engaging and giving that bit of feedback. All right. Well, let's keep going. Cool. So I know some of you said that, again, you're very familiar with the business model. In fact, you're already doing this. So for you guys, you know how the business model works, right? For those that are new, I'm just going to give you guys a quick recap. Okay, we'll do a little speed run here on how the business works. Just because if you don't know kind of like the basic of how it works and how the dots connect, a lot of this won't make sense. So just stick with me the next few minutes here. So really the first thing we're doing is we're finding business owners that need help with online marketing services. Okay. The question you might have is what type of services? Like what exactly are we selling? What are we doing? Okay. So 80% of the people that I mentor one-on-one, the services they offer, social media management, content creation. Typically, we put the two of those together. If you think of my Instagram page, for example, content creation is just the act of actually editing the videos that I record. So I sit down, I get my phone out, I record a video, I send that to someone who then will edit that video. Right. So that's the content creation piece. Social media management is, for example, the content I post on Instagram. I post kind of 3 or 4 posts a day, quite a lot. I don't manually post them myself. I have a team member that handles that for me. Okay. So it just means that, I sit down and record content, hand it over, gets edited, and then it gets posted. Okay. So that's essentially what 80% of people I work with offer to their clients. And so they work with all different types of clients. Okay. There's not one set type of client. There's local businesses, there's restaurants, there's gyms, there's like online coaches, online personalities like me. Like really every business in the world you can think of can benefit from these services. Okay. But this is the main thing. Now, about 20% of people I work with offer different marketing services, things like paid advertising, ads you'll see on Instagram and Facebook, email marketing, the emails you get from all the the companies you've probably bought from in the past, people that offer that as a service. And these all work. It's just that this is the most common. We find these two here, the easiest to learn, the easiest to sell when you're just starting off, really just the most beginner friendly. Okay. Now, again, you don't need to know how to do these yourself. And we've mentioned this briefly, but I'll go a little bit deeper into this. So outsourcing, essentially just finding people that are very skilled in a certain area that will do parts of the work for us. All right. So again, this is why you don't need to be an expert. I'm going to walk you through the positions that you can outsource. All right. The people that you could hire to do some of this work for you. So for example, you could get an appointment setter. All right. This is someone who books meetings for you. Okay. So for example, I've got 2 appointment setters that work with me, and they essentially get paid commission for deals they bring me. Okay. So it's a pretty good deal because I get people coming to me. I don't have to pay for it until they become a client. And then my appointment setters get to literally just work with what I'm doing. They don't have to think about anything else. And like, they don't have to deliver the service or anything like that. They just have to get me people who are interested, pass it to me. The rest is handled. Okay. So it's a win-win for both of us. So that's appointment setting. You could get a graphic designer. This was the very first position I hired, was a graphic designer, right? Someone who can just create graphics for social media, websites, email marketing, this kind of thing. And you can get this quite cheap. Video editor, same thing. Okay. This is probably the second person we would have hired. So someone to edit videos, social media content, ads, like video ads. This could be a short form video for TikTok. It could be a long form video for YouTube. It could even be a podcast video. Okay. You could get a virtual assistant, someone that does like basic admin, like basic social media management as well. So for example, very common that you have a video editor editing videos for your clients, and then a virtual assistant that's logged into the client's social media page and posting the content for them. Now, there's some clients that won't be comfortable, right? Giving you the login details to their Instagram or their Facebook. That's just normal, right? Some will, some won't. For those that won't, we just use third-party tools. Like there's basically platforms that they can link their account to. We can log in that way. We don't have to be logging in directly to their account, but we can still post content to it. So this is actually really, really easy. You could get a copywriter, so someone who writes like copy, aka just written words for website landing pages, social media content, email marketing, and such. Now, with the people I work with, I help them do this. Okay, I kind of connect them with graphic designers, virtual assistants, video editors, and such. For example, Rachel, someone that we looked at earlier, she said, I hired Carol from your list of content creators. She's the best I've ever hired. Okay, so I help people more directly with that process. Now, the next question you have, once you have an idea of the services we offer and how we deliver those services by outsourcing, the next thing is, where do we find the clients? All right, it's great to, have a marketing service you can offer, but of course you need clients that will actually pay for it. So there's kind of 2 ways, right? There's cold marketplaces. Okay, think of going on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook and finding a business and just messaging them. All right, let's say, like I worked with a lot of fitness coaches. So you could go to Instagram today, you could find a fitness coach and you could just message him. Okay. You could essentially pitch your service to him. That does work. It's just a little bit more difficult, right? Because if you message a random fitness coach, the chances are he doesn't need your help, right? Or he doesn't want your help just yet. Okay. It's not that businesses don't want their help. It's that like if you message me and I get messaged all the time every day, unless I'm looking for what you offer, I probably won't reply to your message. So if somebody messages me today and say, hey, Adam, are you looking to hire a salesperson? If I'm not looking to hire a salesperson, which right now I'm not, even if they're the best salesperson, I'm not going to hire them. Simple as that, right? So this is the kind of problem with these cold marketplaces. Warm marketplaces solve this problem. Okay, these are essentially just platforms where business owners post jobs. Okay, some of you, let's say if you're in Ireland, for example, you know of Indeed.ie, right? Pretty common job marketplace. These work very similarly to that. They're better in my opinion because in Indeed.ie, if you apply to a job, there's probably like 200 other people that also apply to that job. With a platform like Upwork, the average is about 15 to 20. Okay, so you just have a lot more chance of getting the job. Now, the reason these work really well is because you're speaking to business owners that actually want what you offer. They've already allocated a budget to getting help. And so you can just find jobs simply about social media marketing. That's it. And you can just find those every day. There's literally hundreds. Okay, I had a call with somebody recently and they said, like, how many jobs are actually posted each day? And I was like, hundreds. And they're like, are you sure? I pulled up my screen. I showed them. I logged into my account on Upwork to show them. Like there is hundreds every day. I think we estimated it out based on how many we were seeing within the last 10 minutes, 20 minutes. It was like something like 400 a day, right? So there's literally hundreds. Okay. So these are the two ways. My preference for most people is to start with one marketplaces because you're just closer to the money. People already looking for your help. It's a closer sale, right? We're going to go a little bit deeper here. I'll just show you a little bit about how it works in a sec. Vin, one of the guys I've worked with, he mentioned here that he sent off 4 proposals. So he found 4 jobs, wrote like proposals, aka applications to those. At 3 were seen, and he booked 3 calls, and he already closed 1 client, and he's going to close another. Like that's crazy. If you message 4 business owners on Instagram today, you definitely won't get that. It's not going to happen. This guy Harry, okay, he got a 2K a month deal, literally to do 20 video posts on a social media channel for one of his clients. Okay. So that's a 2K a month deal. They didn't even have a call with him. They posted a job. Harry applied and they said, yep, cool. You're the best fit. We've hired you. That was it. Okay. Now, normally you'll have a quick call, a little quick Zoom call just to check, everything is okay. You both understand how everything works, right? Harry is actually an example of someone that I've interviewed on the channel. He's on my YouTube channel when he hit around, I think, 8K a month, somewhere around there. He quit his job last year. And so for the last year, he's done this full time. And he sent me a message the other day, which I think I might be able to pull up in a minute, but he did between 9,000 to 11,000 a month every month for 2025. And he built that business while working his 9 to 5. He worked, you can probably see from the background, in London. Okay, so he was working in London, big kind of finance job, built this up on the side, then quit his job. All of last year, did this full time. Okay, he gets a lot of his clients, and pretty much all of his clients that get to that kind of 8 to 10K a month range from Upwork. Okay, what it looks like to get clients on this platform: 30% is the jobs you apply to. If you apply to a job that's just not a good job, doesn't matter how good your application is. Okay, so that's 30%. 40% is the proposal, what you actually write. If you just copy and paste and just say, hey, I can help you, like that's not going to get you a deal. Okay, so it's very important to know how to write a good proposal. 10% of it is your profile, just like how your profile actually looks and the things you've got on there, which I obviously help people build out. Your portfolio, okay, because people do want to see what you've done. Now, I know a lot of you might see this and panic. You're like, shit, this is it. I don't have a portfolio, right? So I can't do this. Don't worry. All right. Pretty much everybody I work with starts with no portfolio, 0. Okay. I help them build one out. There's a few ways we do it. Can't really go into too much detail on how we do it, but I help them do this. Okay. So that could be giving them templates of content that they can edit a little bit themselves and kind of showcase in a portfolio. Or it's partnering with a freelancer, okay? Let's say a video editor that does really good work and you want to outsource work to them. Well, maybe we could use their portfolio, not claim that it's ours, right? But show it to our potential clients and explain that this is some work that your team has done, okay? So there's ways around it. We won't go too deep in that now, but just know that that is important. You do need to have it. And if you don't have anything, you're a flat beginner, don't worry. There's ways around it. And we do it in an ethical way. Okay. We're not trying to mislead or lie to business owners. That's not the purpose of that, but it's to do it in an ethical way. All right. So the process is like this. You build a profile and a portfolio. You find ideal clients. You understand what the client wants. You send them a proposal. If they're interested, they book a call with you. You build out a package based on what they want and how much you want to charge. You close the deal. Obviously, not every call results in a closed deal, but from the stats we have, about 50% do. Okay. So if you get 2 business owners to book in a call with you, you'll probably have yourself at least 1 paying client. Now, I can give you the blueprint, right, of like how to set up your profile, how to build out a portfolio. Again, even if you don't have experience, you've never done this before, I can show you how to write the right type of proposals to land clients. For example, Gavin sent me this message 2 days ago. First client. It's not life-changing, but it's $350 a month for 3 months. Okay, you do the maths. I think that's like 1.05K. So like just over $1,000, right? For 3 months. But it's his first client. And it's the proof of concept. And he got that through. Okay. So again, just to recap, guys, on how this looks, you find an ideal client. This is an example here of a job, okay, that we've found on Upwork. And we've said, okay, this matches our criteria. I give everybody I work with a checklist that they follow. So they just open up their checklist. They grade it, like they tick the boxes if it fits, then they move on to the next step. Next is understanding what they want. So actually reading through in a lot of detail exactly what do they want? What are they saying? They're saying here, look, I don't have the time or energy, nor do I know what folks want to see. AKA, they're saying I don't have the time and I don't know how to do this. They want to get results in sales. Okay. As in they want to just sell more products. They're marketing edible flowers and microgreens. And then will it become full-time? I highly doubt it. We're getting all the information there that we need to now write something back to them that screams out to what they've just said. Okay, here's an example, right? We're going through each of the points they've mentioned, giving them tips, not trying to just say, hey, I'll help you, but giving them actual breakdowns on how we do this. Again, I show people how to do this. We have lots of very successful people in the programs. We know what works and what doesn't work on these platforms. Then you book the meeting. So you'll have like a quick text back and forth, typically book them in then for a quick Zoom call. And then that's when you go and close the deal. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. I know I kind of sped through that there. Again, the goal was just to make sure that you understand the basics. It's all making sense. Some of it might be a little bit blurry right now, and that's completely fine. You know, I'm trying to cram in as much as we can here so that you know the foundation of how this works. The second thing then, right, is you selling your services to these business owners. The important thing is to get paid on a monthly basis. Okay. This is where we get recurring income. Very important. Because if you potentially want to quit your job or you want to have this as just like a nice, you know, extra $2-3 grand a month income, I want to make sure that you're doing it and you're following a business model that's going to give you recurring income. You know, not like you sell a product online and that's it. For example, I'm sure some of you have looked at drop shipping, e-commerce, things like this. And I have some experience with this. One thing that really lacks with a lot of those business models is you sell a product and that's it. It's done. All right. Like this is a spreadable cologne my sister bought me for Christmas, right? I have it by my desk because it just smells nice and I can just grab it when I'm going out, right? But this is an example of a product that, you know, yes, you might buy again, right? Because it's like a consumable, as in I'll use it up and then I'll need to get another one, right? But am I going to go and buy that every month? No, probably not. So the services we sell, like we sell it on a monthly basis, right? If you come back here and you remember Gavin, right? $350 a month for 3 months minimum. Now, what happens with that is we do it for 3 months, and that's basically the trial period to see if they're happy with what they're getting. Then, if they are, it just moves month to month. So, like a Spotify, like a Netflix subscription, it just goes through every month. Okay. And that is our goal, is to get clients that are happy with what we offer, of course, and they just pay us month after month after month. All right. Just some more examples for you, right? This guy, Alvi, another guy that I have on the YouTube channel that I've interviewed, he does over 6 figures a year with us. He's at first 4-month minimum package sold. So instead of doing 3 months, which is what we normally do, he said, hey, I'm going to do 4 because he did 3 months and it worked well. So he was like, well, why not try and push it a bit more and do 4? It worked for him. Or if you look here, right, Jessica, one of the clients she just got recently, which literally 5 days ago, 30 posts a month, 1.5K. Okay. So that'll be every month, as long as the service is good and the client's easy to work with, happy days. Again, that guy, Harry, I mentioned earlier, right? 9K to 11K a month, all of last year. That's beautiful, right? And that only happened because you have clients that pay you every single month, recurring income. All right. That is the key. And that's why for me, this was an incredibly, you know, unique thing that I found when I stumbled across this business model all of those 7 years ago. And it's why people still get such good results with this. Now, the third step, final kind of step, is you get everything you need from the client. Okay. So you've got them on board. They've bought your service. They've paid you $300 for the first month just because you're starting off and you're getting things up and running. Then you need to get everything you need from them. Okay. Onboard them into your system. If they have a logo, if they have any materials, maybe they have a batch of videos they've already recorded that need to be edited, right? You're going to get all of that you need to go and actually get the service started. And the last step is delivering that service. Okay. Now, as we looked at, you can hire somebody else to do it. For an example, right? You get paid $500 a month. Okay. The client signs up with you tomorrow, the 15th of January. You then hire a freelancer on Upwork. So you can sign the client on Upwork. You can also hire the freelancer on Upwork. Okay. It's a beautiful thing on the 16th of January. And that person then is going to manage most of the work, not all the work. Okay. You're still going to talk to the client. You're still going to be, you know, doing the research for their social media. Again, I teach you how to do all this, But your freelancer is going to be editing the graphics, editing the videos, doing the things that you might not know how to do yourself right now. Okay. So hopefully that's straightforward enough. Okay, guys, if you have any questions on the business model, anything about how it works, just put your questions into the Zoom chat. Okay. On the Zoom, you see a little box that says chat. Just open that up, put in any questions you have. I'll do a Q&A at the end, but it would be great if you actually put in the questions that you have now. So I'll just kind of just chill for a minute here. I'll just take a drink of water. Just think to yourself for a sec. If you don't have questions, don't worry. That's fine. No stress. But if you do have questions, just pop them in the chat real quick. Just because then I can kind of pace this session and make sure I get through all of those questions for you guys. I want to make sure that you leave this going. This was a good use of my time. And yeah, hopefully you get some value from this, okay? Cool. All right. So I'll keep going, guys. And again, if anything comes up as you're going through this, just pop them in. So as I promised at the start of this, I mentioned AI. Okay. We all know it's very disruptive, important, and probably going to replace a lot of jobs. Now, a question I get all the time right now is what's going to happen to social media marketers in the next few years with AI? Well, what I can tell you is this. Okay. We started using AI in social media marketing about 3 years ago now. Okay. So I've seen in the last 3 years what it has done. And I can tell you this for sure. It's not replaced us by any means. Okay. Because if you use any AI tools, you'll know that there's still a bit of a learning curve. You know, like you can't just download an AI, let's say video editing software, and it just magically does the work for you. No, like you still have to prompt it the right way. You got to learn how to edit it. Like there's a lot of little nuances. And so where we're currently at, I can't see us getting to the point where AI does everything we do anytime soon. Okay. That's just the reality. And this is why, you know, for example, you could go to ChatGPT today, okay, today, and you could get it to give you a very specific fitness plan, diet plan, and like recovery plan, right? To put on a load of muscle in the next few months or lose a load of weight, right? You could do that. And you know, ChatGPT is good. If you prompt it the right way, you will get that information. Yet fitness coaches still make tons of money. Right? Why? Because people need the human service. They need that human aspect. It's the same with social media marketing. The 50-year-old business owner that says, look, I know I need to be on social media. I don't want to do it all myself. They don't want to learn all the tools. Some of them do, but very, very few of them. Most of them go, hey, I don't want to learn how to make AI videos. You know, I don't want to learn how to schedule content on this platform that AI will then take the video I posted on TikTok and put it on 10 other platforms. You know, that's the disconnect. And that's where we come in because we can solve that. It just AI makes our job easier. It means we can actually charge a bit less money, give better value to the client. Everybody wins. Win-win, if you ask me. Okay. So as I promised, I am going to go through some of the kind of common tools that I use, that I've used, and that I continue to use that I think are really valuable. So number one is Opus Clips. For example, if any of you have seen any of my YouTube videos, every YouTube video that I post gets taken. We take the link, we put it into Opus Clips, which I pay about $12 a month for, maybe a little bit more. Okay. But it's less than $20 a month. And with that, it'll chop, let's say, a 10-minute video into multiple short form clips for social media. So on average, it'll give me back about 10 clips. Some of them aren't that good. Probably, I'd say I use at least maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 of them. Okay. I did one today, for example. Earlier today, it took me about probably 10 minutes. And I got from my 10-minute YouTube video, I was able to get 4 really good videos, which is fantastic because that's 4 videos for TikTok or Instagram that I don't have to record. Okay. And it's content I've already recorded. It's already from a YouTube video. So this is a really, really useful tool that you can use. Obviously, it's not going to work with every client you work with, but if you work with a client that has a YouTube channel, if you work with a client that has a podcast or just has some, let's say, 20-minute lecture that they gave on a topic, great. We can use Opus Clips to chop that up. So for whatever I pay, again, around maybe $15 to $20 a month, I will get, in theory, I could get hundreds of videos made for that price. But for me, even if I get 20 clips for that money, it's fantastic. I pay $1 to get one video, it's amazing. Okay. And you can imagine if you're doing this for business owners, how cheap this makes what you do. And then it's up to you how much extra you want to charge to the client for that. This second app here, Captions app, very similar. This works well, right? If I was to sit down right now, open my video on my phone and just record a video for the next, let's say 30 seconds talking about a topic, well, I can go to the Captions app and just take that video, add it in, and with its AI, it'll automatically chop out any parts where I messed up. You know, if I stopped speaking for 5 seconds, it'll cut that out, any silences, anything like that. It'll also then just add subtitles. Okay, so the subtitles are added, and again, it's pretty much ready to go. So that might take, you know, a manual process for me to edit that video from maybe 20 minutes down to 5 minutes. Okay, so really, really great tool. Repurpose.io is fantastic. If you take a video, you post it on repurpose.io to, let's say, TikTok, you can, with their AI, repost that to all your social media channels. So it'll automatically take that piece of content, resize it and reshape it for LinkedIn, for YouTube, for Facebook, for Instagram. Okay. So really, really good way where you can add value to your clients. You're managing, let's say, Instagram for your client, and they say, you know what, maybe we should do Facebook as well. You know, we have some customers that come from Facebook. You go, well, cool. I can do exactly what I'm doing. You guys are paying me $500 a month, let's say, to post 10 times a month on your Instagram. Okay. For an extra 100 a month, I can go and do all of that on Facebook as well. And you'll use tools like this that just make it quite easy, not that time consuming for you. And for the client, they're getting that extra value. Okay. So again, win-win. Otter AI. I use this all the time. Any Zoom call I take, Otter AI joins the call and it transcribes the meeting. It basically records the whole meeting. We have all the words, everything that was said, it's all there. And so if any time I need to go back and reference a call, let's say I've signed a new client and they were telling me about their gym that they run, right? And they're telling me loads of details about it. And I'm trying to take notes, you know, but I just can't keep up with all the details they're giving me. No problem. This will be all recorded. I can then go and use, this is a really good feature. It's kind of like ChatGPT. You can then just ask it, like, what did I discuss with John, the gym owner? And it will pull up the call. It'll find exactly what you discussed, give you a bullet point, an action item, a checklist to follow. Fantastic. Okay. So really, really good tool that I recommend you check out. This is what it looks like. It gives you like summaries like this, and then you can actually just listen back to the whole thing as well. Now, guys, before we go into the Q&A, which I am going to do, don't worry. So any questions you have, keep throwing them in. Just to make you all aware, some of you know this already, but for 2026, the price of my program is going to go up quite a few times. Okay. The plan is pretty much every 1 to 2 months that I'm going to increase the price. Reason being is in the past, I've experimented with having, you know, team members that work alongside me. So we can essentially work with more people. Where I'm at now, and for the last few months, I've been testing this. I'm doing all of it myself. I coach everybody fully by myself. There's no like team member you're passed over to or somebody I've trained up that's going to be taking care of it. It's with me. Okay. Because of that, obviously my time is limited. So the kind of natural thing is I've got to increase the price to kind of balance out the supply and demand. Okay. Basic economics. So for 2026, this is the plan. The next price increase I have planned is this month. It's on the 25th of January. And each time I've done price increases, you know, in the last, let's say, year, each time I've done it, minimum, it's gone up by €100. Okay, minimum. Okay. On the higher end, it's gone up to 400. I don't believe in like just doubling the price. So whatever the price is now, I don't want to just double that right on the 25th, because I don't think that's kind of fair either. So I'm just going to slowly be adding this up over the year. So it just means that if you are looking at working with me, now is the best time. Okay. Well, until January 2025. So I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of context on the program, how it works, and the details you might need to know. Obviously, I don't want this to turn into me saying, hey, you have to buy my program. I believe in it. I've been doing this for years. I've helped hundreds of people. You probably know that from my content now. I'm pretty confident in what I do. We've got great results, but I want to give you the insights. Then we'll move on to the Q&A and I'll answer all the questions that you guys have. All right. So this is just a brief rundown. What is the program I run, the Figure Accelerator Program, and how does it work? So it's not a basic course, right? It's not just a bunch of how-to videos, okay? It is an entire mentorship program, okay? So we're going to be covering everything you need to be a successful business owner, because it's not just the tactics you need. You need help with your mindset, accountability, networking with the right people, building up a community of people that support you. and a little bit of self-improvement as well. Okay, you're going to learn everything from social media marketing to appointment setting, sales, closing, personal branding. Okay. The reason being is most courses suck, to be honest, because you get a bunch of basic videos, basic information. Then you get doubts and you have questions. There's nobody to help you. You lose motivation. You stop trying and you give up. All right. This happened to me. I bought a Forex course years ago to learn Forex trading. And yeah, it was okay. Basic videos, basic information. I got a couple of videos in and I got stuck because it was made for people in the US. I wasn't in the US. I asked the question to their email support because it wasn't like a community. I couldn't speak to the owner, right? I just had to talk to an email. And they basically just said, like, yeah, like just watch the videos. So yeah, I got stuck. Then there was no one to help me. So I lost motivation, I stopped trying, and I gave up. That's what happened. So when I designed my program, I said, "Feck that. We're not going to do that. Okay. We're going to do it a little bit differently." So how it works is you get a one-to-one onboarding call with me. So typically you'll have this call with me a couple of weeks into the program. Okay. So the goal with this is that the training videos I give you, you'll go through at least half of those. Then we have the one-on-one call together. And we use that to make sure you are on track, that you have a plan in place for your first couple of months with me. Okay. Like a very, very clear plan. That call you can book in like as soon as you want. If you get through that first half of the video training in 2 days, cool. You can book it in 2 days. Most people, it takes them about maybe a week and a half, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. That's the average. Okay. You're also then going to get help from me on a daily basis. Okay. So you can text me. You'll be in a private chat with just me. You can text me. You can voice note me. You know, in fact, yesterday, I spent a couple of hours just voice noting back and forth with people in the program. That's something I do pretty much every day. Okay. So you can just text me, give me updates. We can use that to just check in on what you're doing. Make sure you're on the right track. Whatever you're doing, right? We can look at that and see if it's working. If it's not, I can give you a new plan to follow to make sure it starts to work. And if your plan is working, fantastic. You can just check in with me. A lot of people use this for little things, right? Let's say you have a meeting with a business owner and you don't know how to close the deal. Text me, give me the info. I'll give you some tips. Or you sign a client to get a deal across the line. They've just paid you and maybe you're panicking a little bit. Like, what do I do next? Text me. I'll help you out. Now, if, let's say you're asking a question that not only I could give you value, right, and I could reply to, but you could get help from other people that I've helped, you can put it into the group. Okay. I really recommend this so that you can text me, no problem, but you can also text the group. All right. Like here's an example, Alvi. Again, I mentioned him earlier. He's on my YouTube channel. I've interviewed him before. Someone posted in, do they have a copy of an ad they've posted on Upwork? And he literally gave his job. You know what I mean? So this is the kind of community that we've built. It's a small community of about 200 people and people that actually want to help each other. I'm pretty proud of it, to be honest. In there, we do weekly live coaching calls. Okay. So 2 calls every week. Typically, these are done at around 6 p.m. Irish time. Okay. On Monday and on Thursday. And they're live. Okay. So you kind of like this setup here, but they're Q&A. So the whole thing is a Q&A. If you've got questions, you just keep throwing them in, listening to other people's questions, and I help you with whatever you need help with. I also record them so that you don't have to attend. Some people might be in a different part of the world. They can't attend. That's fine. They can watch the recordings. They can then text me personally with any questions they have. No issue. So that's kind of the 3 main areas that you get support from me. Now, you do get my entire course, okay? All of my templates, all of my resources, all of my contract systems, all of that. But then you get this support ongoing. And this is really where you get that one-to-one touch with me, okay? So this is everything you get. We've just covered it all there. You also, as you can see down here, get a certification from me once you finish up with the program, okay? And these are just some people that I've given awards to. I give awards to people when they hit 5K, when they hit 10K, so when they hit 20, 30, 40K as well. Okay, so these are just some of them I've sent out at this point. Too many to count. I've spent a lot of money on sending out these awards over the years, but I love it because it's something people work towards. Obviously, I send it out to them for free. They can put it on their desk, have it up on the wall, whatever is nicest for them. I don't know. It always puts a smile on people's faces. I've also got a ton of interviews. Okay. I do my best that when somebody's got a really unique story, when they've done really well with this, I try and interview them. Now, keep this in mind. Most people who start this business are pretty private. right? They don't want to be public. So the interviews you'll see, I've got at this point, I should count them, but I'm sure we've got 50, 60 of these on YouTube. Each one is like an hour long, sometimes a little bit less. The one I did yesterday with Jessica is nearly an hour long, right? You're going to get a ton of insights from those. But my point is that this is just the people that want to be public, right? Like most people don't want to be public. Okay. So there's obviously lots of people in the program that will give you help that you won't see on my YouTube channel. These are just the people that we've posted about publicly. Okay. So again, for 2026, the plan is increase the price every 1 to 2 months. The next price increase happens on January 25th. Okay. So if you're ready, if this is your year and you feel like you're ready to finally bet on yourself, I'm going to send in a message here into the Zoom chat with 2 options for you. Okay. If you feel like you want to get more info first, okay, you're not 100% sure right now, that's fine. I'll show you how you can book a one-to-one call with me if you feel like that would be the best next step. There's also going to be a link if you feel like you have the info you need and you do want to get in. Okay, the price will go up on January 2025 or sooner if the spots that I have now for January fill up before that. Okay, so link 2 is going to be if you want to go ahead and just get into the program. The sign up page, you'll see the pricing, all of that. So I'm going to send both of those into the chat right now. As I do that, I'm then going to have a look into the chat here and go through any questions that you guys have asked. So just bear with me a second, guys. Let me get that sent in for you, and then I'll check out the chat. Cool. So I'm going to get into the questions here in a sec. Just as I'm doing that, guys, has this been helpful? Like genuinely, have you learned anything? Do you feel like it was worth the time so far? Feel free if you want to let's do a 1 again. Just drop a 1 in the chat if this has been helpful. I'm always curious just to see if this has actually been something that's benefited you so far. Kevin said 1 nice. Awesome, Kevin. Glad to hear it. Stephen, glad to hear it, man. Tommy, yeah, hope this has been good for you, man. Johnny, Matt, Ryan, Renisha, Aaron, Mohammed, amazing. Guys, appreciate the feedback, really do. And really glad that this has been helpful for you so far. So I've just got that message here and I've just put it into the chat. Okay, so you see there's 2 links there. Number 1 is you can book a call directly with me if I have spots available. And number 2 is you can go ahead and sign up directly to the program itself. Okay. So I'll send that again, just so you guys have it there as the latest thing in the chat. All right. So I'm just going to go and check out now what we've got here so far. All right. So let me just spotlight myself here so you guys can see me. All right. So Mohammed Nur, hope I pronounced your name right, man. You said, can we use social media marketing as a full-time job? Yes, you can. As I mentioned, most people I work with start this part-time. Okay. They work, they study something, they build it up on the side. And then when it makes enough money, they then do it full-time. Let me just actually show you some of the people that are now doing this full-time inside of my program. So you can get an idea of if that's the reality and if that's something that you want to do yourself. Okay, so right here, these are just some of the people I've helped. Okay, so Erica does a full-time, Amanda, Alvi, Kira, Logan, Megan, like all of these people are doing it full-time now because they've scaled it up to make them enough money. Okay, so again, some people don't. Like Jessica still works a 9 to 5. This guy, Caleb, he works in the military in the US. Adam, he's quite a bit above this now, but he was at 5.5K when we did this interview. He runs a food truck full-time. Mina's a nurse. Okay. So completely up to you. But if you do want to push it to that extra level, you can definitely do it. It's definitely possible. Miridal, again, hope I got your name right. Do I need to have some money to send proposals on Upwork? Great question. So Upwork does charge you to apply to jobs. And I know that sounds like bad news, but trust me, it's good news. Okay. The reason they charge is because if they don't charge, bots, people with automated AIs and all sorts will be applying. So each job will just get spammed, like hundreds and hundreds of applications. Okay. So you do have to spend money. Now it's very small. Most people that I work with say that are doing 2, 3, 4 grand a month. They're spending maybe 20, maybe $30 a month. Okay. So like it's a pretty small cost for what you're getting. You're basically paying for exclusivity that when you apply to a job, there's only going to be maybe 10, 15 other people applying to that job. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to compete with hundreds of people. Owen, what is the best way to price land clients in the beginning? I'm struggling to get people to follow up rather than ghosting me. With something like a 3-month package for the very beginning for around €1,000 be a good starter. Yeah, price wise, Owen, I recommend somewhere between 500 to 1,000 per month. Some people start lower. You might have seen that with one of the examples I gave of Gavin. Like he started lower. Okay, so like his first client is 350. Let me just show our wins channel here for a second. Okay, to give you guys an idea. Let's see, Gavin, yeah, 350 for that client. Mark, okay, a deal here for 1,000, one for 900. Jessica, one for 1.5. Alex at 350. What else we got for you? 700. So you'll see it ranges, but 500 to 1,000 is a pretty safe bet for starting off. Owen, my recommendation, man, is Upwork. Okay. Like the proof is there with people we work with. Even if you get some clients that are not the type of businesses you want to work with forever, it gets you started. And like I think that's really important when you're starting a business like this to get to a point where like your cash flow and the money you're making is like enough to then be comfortable. So for example, Owen, I have someone in the program, Aoife, who I showed you earlier. She's doing 10K a month. She got to 3K a month without work. Okay. And then she came to me and said, you know what? Now I want to work with clients in a very specific industry. So for her, it was like the kind of eco industry, right? And at that point, I explained to her, I was like, look, you can do that, but it's like that's a long game, right? Like you kind of building up that reputation as the go-to person in that industry, that takes time. So if your biggest motivation right now is just I need to get my cash up, which she needed to do, she just moved to Dubai and she needed to make more money. So we just put a plan in place to do Upwork and that got her to 10K a month. Okay. From there, now she's going to be more targeted with the companies she works with. But that's my recommendation for most people. Like, go where the money is, get clients in, get yourself to a few grand a month, and then you can be a bit more specific and a bit more like picky as to who you work with from there. All right, MacBook. Obviously, I know that's not your name. It's probably just the default that's popped up on Zoom. You said, do I need a website to show my portfolio? Not necessarily. You can build one on Canva. I'll just type that out for you here. A lot of people in my program use Canva to build a portfolio, and you can host it on Canva as well. So it's quite easy. You said also, if I get a client from Upwork, I can't take him to Zoom to do a call with me, right? You can. It's just done through the platform. So Upwork basically has Zoom built into it. So you do the call through Upwork, but it's through Zoom. So you can. Johnny, you said when doing proposals, is this always by email or would it be a short video of yourself explaining your services? Great question. So it's typically both. So what I mean by this, Johnny, is it's not necessarily an email, but it'll be like a written piece of text, right? So like a written proposal that you write, but you can add a personalized video of you into that. And if someone's comfortable doing it, I always recommend it. Some people don't because they just don't want to record a video. That's fair enough. But if you are willing to, I always recommend it. Jessica, who I interviewed yesterday, and Aoife, who I interviewed about 4 weeks ago, both of them do that. They write a proposal, they attach then a personalized video, like very personal to the job the business owner posted. We find that works incredibly well. Miridal, you said facing the same problem with Owen. Most of the leads are ghosting me. I set up a call with some, but then he didn't show up. So yeah, and to touch on this from Owen as well, right? When you're dealing with people that don't get back to you, it normally means like there's a problem with a few things, right? Number one is you might just be dealing with people that are just like they're not bought in, like as in they take a call with you because they're just like, oh, I'll hear what this person has to say, but like they're not actually like, yes, I want to spend money on this. This is why Upwork works really well, right? Because they're on the platform because they have a budget. Like they want to spend money on social media marketing, right? So what you'll find with a platform like Upwork is you'll very rarely get ghosted because like they want to spend money. That's why they're there. Like they know it's not free, right? If you're messaging like local businesses yourself or you're cold calling them or you're emailing them or whatever, that can work. Okay. It's not that it doesn't work. It's just it's more tricky because when you're on a call with them, again, they're there probably with the mindset, I just want to see what this is about. That's their mindset, right? Not I want to get help. I just want to see what this guy has to say. Okay. So when you're on that call, you have to be a better salesperson to be able to explain to them how you can actually help them and how your stuff is valuable, right? And so if through that call, they're not actually convinced that they need to get help right now, doesn't matter how good your follow-up is, they're not going to get back to you, right? So it's really a problem normally of like where you're finding people. So if you just focus on finding people that already have the money to spend and want to spend the money, you won't have to deal with as many of those issues. Katie, you said as an introvert, I struggle with sales. Is it viable to hire a salesperson to handle discovery and closing calls? I can relate, Katie. I'm definitely like I'm a complete introvert. Mightn't seem like it because I'm doing a live training like this and I post content online. The idea of doing this years ago to me was absolutely batshit scary. Okay. So, first off, my advice is like you'll just get better at it with time. Like when I started, I was very nervous to take a call with a business owner. And I was just like, okay, I got to do it. Like, you know what I mean? Simple as just got to push through. To answer your question though, yes, you can hire a salesperson, but it's not easy to hire a salesperson when you're starting. So like I've hired salespeople in the past and it works really well when you have a proven sales process and a proven way of getting people interested in what you offer. And then you just slot a salesperson into that. If you're to get a salesperson today and you say to them, I can't pay you, I can only give you commission, and I don't really know if businesses want my stuff and if I have a good offer and I've validated all of these little things, it's very difficult to find someone that's willing to do that. Or the person you do get is not someone that's that good, right? Because if they're a good salesperson, they will have opportunities elsewhere. They will have opportunities from people that can fill their calendar up today with booked calls, right? And they can probably make money right away. So my advice to you, Katie, I know it's kind of harsh advice, but like I would just try and work through it. I know it's obviously, it's like kind of like there's that mental block and such, but I had to do it myself and it's the best thing I did. Like looking back, even if there was a way for me to start by just hiring a salesperson, I am so glad. I am so glad that I just went through it because I think it bleeds into all other areas of your life, genuinely. If you've any follow-ups on that, let me know, Katie. Another thing with that, Katie, one of the guys I showed you, Harry, you might have remembered he signed a client for 2K a month that I showed you. Like that deal, he didn't take a call. Like they just liked what he had to offer and they hired them right there. So it is possible to still get clients without doing calls. It's just harder, you know. You just have more chance if you offer calls. Ebuka, you said, does it make sense to make videos for clients with your face? That's if they agree, of course. Normally, I wouldn't recommend it. Some people will do that, but normally it's best to just have it as the client. Yeah, so I wouldn't recommend that approach, to be honest. All right, Killian, you said if you're based in Europe and dealing with American clients, how do you manage your expectations so that they don't call you at 9 to 10 p.m.? Great question. So, Killian, any client I've ever worked with, there's never the expectation that they can just call me. Never. Okay. They can never just pick up the phone and call me. Never. It doesn't work that way. The expectation is set very clearly that we do a certain number of calls per month. You know, so when I started, we did 2 calls a month with our clients. And when they want to do a call, we book it into the calendar. Okay. So we both know the time. We're both prepared days in advance and we use the time really wisely. If you don't do that, what will happen is you'll have a business owner just be driving home from work and they'll just call you. Like, just, you know what I mean? Just to like check in and like see what's going on. Excuse my language, but fuck that. That's not how we run a business. You know what I mean? That's not the way we do it. Some people bend that rule and they're happy with a client to just ring them whenever. I don't want that because that's going to be a client that if they can just ring me any day of the week, they're probably going to abuse that. And they're going to just, anytime there's a tiny problem, they ring me. So I just wouldn't recommend that. Now, when you're booking them into your calendar, if you're in Europe and they're in America, you just want to make sure you have some times on your calendar that are a little bit later. So let's say 6, 7, 8 p.m. for you, but then just not too late. And so then there's that give and take where you both have to work to make it fit into their calendar. You can also do calls very early in the morning. Like if a lot of people say that might be in Ireland and they might take a call quite early in the morning before their work. And then that works well for the business owner that might be in a certain part of America where that's still just like evening time for them. So yeah, just to kind of put your mind at ease with that, Killian, like we never find that to be an issue, genuinely, because a lot of times we don't even need to do a call with somebody because we can voice message them or we can send them a video. Kind of like this Zoom meeting is recorded, for example. So like you could literally just start a Zoom meeting with just you, nobody's in it, and you just reply to the client being like, hey, John, you asked me these questions over text. Here's what I think. Here's what we should do. You can just record a video and send it. So that's like just an easy way where we can work through that issue of times. Stephen, you said with little to no experience, what outsourcing is critical in order to sign and deliver for clients starting out? And what are the social media marketing skills that are easily picked up on? Yeah, so most people, what they do is they outsource graphic design and content creation. So like video editing, things like that. So if you sign a client, typically you will be involved with meeting with the client, understanding what they want, building out a social media strategy. So like a plan for the content, what they need to record, what they need to give you. Then you have your graphic designer or your video editor actually put all of that together, and then you post the content for them. So like there's not really that many skills that you need to learn on like the social media side. We do use AI for a lot of this as well because it does speed up the process. All right, Johnny, you said once I join the program, is it a lifetime membership or is it yearly? Great question. So, Johnny, how that works is the program itself, there's two parts. There's like the content, as in the training videos, the templates, and then there's like the coaching with me. So they're kind of two separate parts. The program itself, so let's just take the videos and the templates, that's lifetime. Okay, so as long as my program exists, you have it. I've had people that joined my program 4 years ago that still have access to the newest version of the program. Okay, they don't pay extra. However, the coaching isn't lifetime. Like just it wouldn't work, if I had to commit to like the next 60 years of my life working with every person I've ever worked with. So how we do that is you get 3 months included in the purchase. And then after 3 months, if you're finding value, all right, my job is obviously to give you a ton of value, make sure you get good results. Then if you want to stick with me, there's a monthly fee that we charge. Okay. The monthly fee is like $97 per month. So euro, it's about maybe 82 euro. So obviously people only will pay that and stick around if they're finding value, right? If they're getting results, if they're finding the community, the calls and the one-on-one with me helpful. So that's kind of my skin in the game to say, like, kind of how I've designed it to make sure that one, there's not a huge community with way too many people and it's just craziness, and that I can actually dedicate time to each person. But two, that I, as the owner, have an incentive to get you results. So for example, some of the people I've shown you, like there was someone, Kira, I showed earlier, right? Like she's been with me, I think maybe 3 years now. And so that's an example of where the money she paid to join my program is actually less than the money she paid in terms of continuing coaching, because she was like, this is just really valuable and I want to be in this long term. And so for her now, she makes like 8.5K a month, the 82 euro that it might be for her is like, it's nothing, right? So that's my goal, is I tie in that incentive for me to make sure I deliver a great result to you. Any questions on that, Johnny? Just let me know. Aaron, you said, how's it going? Do I need a laptop to start? Not necessarily, man. You'd be surprised with the amount of people that run their business literally all from their phone. Like I do a lot of work from a laptop just because I'm used to it. But like there's so many things I do now that I genuinely can just do on my phone. Like there's really like out of everything I do in my business right now, I don't think there's anything that I need a laptop for. Like anything I do, I can do from my phone. So it's really personal preference. I like a laptop just because I find it easy to work from, but completely up to yourself. Killian, you said, so when outsourcing the work, is our day-to-day work then just trying to get more clients? Yeah, man, it is. It's really you getting more clients, but it's also managing the clients you have, because if you have 3 clients that pay you 500 a month, you're making 1.5K a month. Obviously, we want to make sure that we want to make sure they're getting what they need. So part of that, Killian, is you, one, managing your team. So let's say if you've a graphic designer and a video editor, managing them, like checking in with them. Are they on track? Do they need help from you? Do they need you to look at a video they've made to give them some feedback, right? So like part of your time is going to be split with your team and with your clients, making sure everyone's happy. The other part is then just getting more clients. You said, do you practice sales calls in your course? So in the course content, there's calls that I've taken that I've recorded that you guys can watch, right? So that's the first thing. There's also a couple of role plays that I've done with students live on coaching calls that you can watch back. And then if you really wanted to, of course, you could do a role play with me in the program as well. That'd be no problem. A lot of people, Killian, will like pair up with somebody in the program and they'll kind of practice together. Because like if you're a beginner and there's somebody else that's a beginner, like happy days. You guys can just like practice together. It might be a little bit awkward at the start, but it's a good idea just to build up your ability and your skills. Meridal, can you please give us ideas on how to structure outreach messages if I'm messaging businesses on Instagram? To be honest, man, we would be here quite a while to kind of give you the full training on that. Like that, the section on outreach messages for Instagram in my program, it's probably about an hour long, like just on that. So I don't want to do you a disservice by just saying, hey, like type this one message because it's going to depend on the type of clients you work with, the exact offer you're selling, like so many other factors. So, yeah, now I do have some YouTube videos that go a little bit deeper into how to do that. So definitely check those out. Mohammed Nur. Again, sorry about the names, guys. Sometimes names are just hard for me to pronounce. You said I'm a grade 12 student interested in social media marketing. What do you recommend? Should I stop learning school and focus on social media marketing, or should I learn in university as well? That's a good question. Now, I can't give you the exact answer, right? Because it's going to depend on your situation, parents, family, all of that. Like I went to university, I studied business. I don't think it helped me much, to be honest, with what I now do. But maybe there was some skills I learned. There's people in my program that have skipped university. There's people in my program like right now that are 17, 18, making enough money from social media marketing that they're just not going to go to university. So yeah, maybe try balance the two, but that one's up to you. Katie, you said thanks for the feedback. Just gonna have to suck it up after few calls to get you. So yeah, 100%. Like genuinely, Katie, I think you'll look back in a year from now and be like, that was like, I'm so glad I did that. Someone I showed you earlier, Megan, on when I did the screen share, she's at 10K a month. She's in the UK. She's an example of someone where like I literally have a coaching call recorded with me and Megan where she's like, I don't know if I want to do calls anymore. And she's just, she was really getting stressed about it. And she pushed through. And like within a month or two, she was crushing it, signing deals left, right, and center, loving it. Cool. A couple more questions I'll go through. Again, for those of you that are somewhat interested, I'm just going to paste those links in again. Okay, so the link to book a call with me and a link to sign up to the program if you want to get in before the price goes up on January 2025. Killian, you said, what are the main difficulties that people have when they aren't seeing success and how do they overcome it? It's a great question. I have actually a video in my program at the very, very start. It's called How to Fail. So it basically breaks down the things successful people have done in the program and the people that struggle and the difference. Okay. So that's like the first thing is like understanding how they approach it, their mindset, how they show up each day. But in short, man, like if somebody is not getting results, obviously the first port of call is to talk with me, like go back and forth. I look at what they're doing. I try and give them feedback on what they're doing to get it back on track. Okay. So it's obviously a two-way street. I can't magically get somebody results. Like they have to do the work, of course. But if they're not getting results, that's the first thing. Come to me, like, let's chat about it. You know what I mean? Because for every person that's done really well, there's two people that struggles, and everybody that's done well has struggled as well. Right. So like anybody you've seen with interviews I have on YouTube, 10K a month, 20K a month, like I can guarantee you now, if I open Telegram where I do all the coaching, and I type in their name, there's messages from them doubting, not sure if they can do it. Is this for me? It's just part of the process. Anybody that starts a business will relate to that. So I would say, to give you an answer, Killian, the main difficulties, number one is your mindset and your self-belief. It might sound cliche and cringy and a bit woo-woo, but if you don't believe that you can do something like this, you probably won't do it, right? Because when you get a little bit of success, you'll just sabotage. Like your conscious mind will create reasons as to why you should slack off, why you should fire your clients and do things that really don't make sense. So you have to believe that like you can actually do this and you want to do this. Okay. That's the first thing. In terms of the actions, some of it's very common sense, but like people will expect to make 10 grand a month by putting in bare minimum effort, right? Like somebody who's doing the bare minimum, they're copy pasting, like chat GPT proposals for Upwork. They're not really reading a job to see if it's a good fit and they kind of just wing it. Like that's not going to get results. Like, you have to really take it seriously and dedicate that time each day. Something I get everybody to do in the program is when they join, they write a manifesto. I give them a template, they just fill it in. And this breaks down like, why are they actually doing this? Like, what's the goal? What are they going to experience when they get to that goal? What do they now need to do to get there? Okay, so I basically build a framework that's easy for them to follow. And one of the key things is reviewing that every day. Okay, because it's kind of like your guide. Like each day you review why you're doing this, what you need to do, the habits you need to avoid, the things you need to get rid of, scrolling on your phone, whatever it may be, right? And that really, I know it sounds basic, but that really helps people because they get a very clear image each day because they review it every day as to what they need to do and how they need to do it. Please suggest top 3 things that everyone should learn or keep in mind while making content for the client. Because when I randomly message someone and when they reply, I don't get the confidence if I can make content for them or not. It's a great question. So, if you're speaking to a business owner that has really amazing social media content, like then it's not going to work, right? So you have to be speaking to business owners that don't have amazing content. That's the first thing. Okay. When, let's say if you were messaging me, right, and you were trying to pitch me on content, well, like you have to believe again, first off, that you can improve what I have. So if you've seen my content, you go, hey, I can do that better. Like that belief has to be there, right? So to come back to your question, then what are the 3 things you need to keep in mind when making content? That's a great question because like I have full obviously training videos on this that give you very detailed steps, what to include, what not to include. But if you look at most good social media content, number one is a good hook, right? Like most videos that catch your attention, you might be doom scrolling TikTok or Instagram, and like there has to be something that jumps at you, something somebody says or something they do in the first couple of seconds that gets you to go, hold on a second, I'm going to keep watching this. So that's like the first thing. The second thing, and I keep this in mind all the time, a lot of my videos are very casual. It's just me picking up the phone, kind of just ranting at the phone. It's very casual. And I want it to be that way because I want it to be informal and not overly edited, right? But what I try and keep in mind is that like someone's not going to watch a 5-minute TikTok video from me. I got to keep my points short, concise, and to the point. So as a video editor, like you need to be cutting out obviously any blanks, any silence, any sentence that they have that could just be taken out. There's oftentimes I'll record a video, it's 2 minutes long, and I review it, and I'm like, I could say the same thing in a minute. Like I waffled for half of it, and then you just got to cut that out. And then lastly, it's just good quality, like the video has to obviously look good and sound good, and the editing needs to reflect that. So if you're adding subtitles on videos, like make sure that you're using subtitles that actually look good, that look clean, and other successful people are already using. Because if they're already using them, it probably means they work. Don't reinvent the wheel. Tommy, you mentioned Opus Clips, Repurpose.io, Otter AI. Do you have any other advice on tool softwares that you have a good experience in helping drive your systems? A good AI tool, whether it's ChatGPT, Perplexity, anything like that, like learning how to prompt an AI tool is going to help you out massively. And I really mean that of like learning how to prompt it. I really like building out. So I use Perplexity. They're called spaces in Perplexity, but I'll build out a space around a certain function. So for example, Tommy, every marketing email I've ever sent is in a document, and that document is in a space in my Perplexity. So it essentially means if I was to, draw a blank and not know what I should put in an email, and I'm like, I need to do an email today, I can just go to my space and say, hey, write me an email. Like, I don't know what to write. You have access to hundreds of emails I've written. Write me a new one. Okay. So learning a good tool like that, like how to organize it with things that you can reference is amazing. So Tommy, for your clients, how you could do this is, let's say you have a call with your client and you get them on board. You use Otter AI to transcribe the entire call. Okay. You then take the transcription, you put it into a document, you feed that into, let's say, your space in Perplexity or custom GPT in ChatGPT, and then you're prompting it based off of that info. Okay. And that's where a lot of people kind of, misuse AI. They go to ChatGPT and they say, hey, give me a content calendar for a fitness coach. And like, yeah, it's going to give you something, but it's going to be generic, right? Very generic. Whereas if you say, hey, give me a content calendar based on this call I had with them, here's all the details about them. Here's also their website. You're going to get a much better output. So I'm a big fan of just learning one of those that you can use in many different functions. Stephen, what legalities do you have to consider when setting up and outsourcing? Do you need solicitor, etc.? So most people, Stephen, when they're just starting, will hire somebody. So they'll outsource via Upwork. And so Upwork kind of has its own like contract in place when you're hiring or when you're getting hired. So it's kind of done through the platform. So it just kind of removes your need to figure it out yourself. And so that's the easiest way, because then there's really no need to get anybody else involved. Now, look, there's going to be times maybe you don't hire somebody through Upwork and it's just somebody you found online and you are like talking over email and things like that. Then it's good to have a contract in place. Obviously, if you're in, let's say you're in Ireland, right? And you've got a contractor that's in the Philippines. Obviously, it's very difficult to enforce that contract, right? Because it's two completely different countries. Like, are you going to sue that person in the Philippines? Like, probably not. They're probably not going to sue you. But it's more just to have a handshake agreement, like a formal written agreement that we both agree on as to what you're doing, what I'm doing, what you're getting paid for, and work that you create that's part of my company, like that kind of thing. I give a template to people in the program so that at least they just have something to start with for that. All right, guys, just short on time here. So I see I'll just go through one or two more questions and then I'll have to hop. But I hope this was valuable, guys. Again, appreciate the feedback you've all given so far. Killian, is it easy to set boundaries for communication for businesses when you're working while doing this? Like, definitely, definitely, man. Like, the reality is, like, expectations when you set them, like, just clearly at the start are normally followed. The problem is, Killian, a lot of people don't do this. They sign a client and they don't explain to the client that they only work between these certain hours, or that the client can't just call them at any moment. And then the problem happens when the client tries to call you in the middle of your work day and you're working your 9 to 5 and you're like, I've messed it up. Like, the key is address it at the start, like make it a clear expectation from day one. Like, if you need a call with us, here's the link. You book it in via the link. We work these hours, etc. So just making it clear is really half the battle. Cool. And same thing you said there for your colleagues. So like people are outsourcing. Yeah, same thing. Just like give them a rundown on like your time zone when you work and just try and work together that way. You know what I mean? That's really the key. Alrighty. Well, guys, again, appreciate you all hopping on. Great to see so many. For those watching the recording, hope you found it valuable. The two links that I've mentioned throughout the Zoom call, you'll see them in the description of the recorded video as well once we put this out. So yeah, check those out before January 2025. I'll see you guys soon. All right, guys, have a good evening. Peace. Have a good one. Adios.